getting Lombardis earlier this year. Second team All-Pro, All-World quarterback Patrick Mahomes joining us now.
And welcome in now, the Super Bowl winning championship quarterback, Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs, joining us from the American Century Championship Golf Tournament. Patrick, saw some tweets, saw some video. How's the golf game looking right now?
The golf game's looking manageable, I'll say that. We're out here having a great time, hoping to have a couple birdies here and there, but for the most part, we're just here to enjoy it.
Manageable works. You get paired up with pros like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers did. What were your thoughts on the match?
The match was really cool to watch, honestly. To see those guys and they play golf with pros like that, it's always a fun watch. And I thought they played well. They hit a lot of great golf shots, and I have to get out to that golf course in Montana because they were hitting balls like 400 yards, and I'm all about that.
So we were able to watch, which means you were able to listen, which means you heard the conversation regarding Aaron Rodgers and his future. So based on that, who do you think is going to be starting for the Packers when you play them coming up this season?
I mean, you never know. I think that's the great thing about the NFL is, with injuries and with guys changing different teams or guys being at the same spot, you never know what you're going to get every week. And we play them a little bit later in the season, so we'll see. I mean, it's a tricky situation they have going there, but it's a great franchise and a great football player, so we'll see what happens at the end of the day.
In terms of your situation, the toe surgery, how are you feeling? Obviously, good enough for golf, good enough for football?
Oh, yeah. The toe's feeling great. I'm out here playing golf, being able to walk around the course. I've been running, cutting, jumping, throwing, doing it all. So I'm just excited to get back to training camp and have another chance to make a run at it and try to win the Super Bowl this year.
In terms of that run, you've been able to experience it coming off of a win, now a Super Bowl loss. How different is an offseason like this?
It's different in the sense that you don't have the parades and all that different type of stuff. But I think the beautiful thing about the NFL is every single year you start from scratch. You have to come in, you have to put in the work to try to get to the big game and try to win it. And so for us, win or lose that Super Bowl the last 2 years, we still have that same mentality of we're going to start from scratch and build and try to find a way to get back to that game.
And so, in terms of getting back to the game, there's so much change, Patrick. Obviously, there's the pandemic. LDT comes back after trying to serve and help people. He'll be up in front of you now. Orlando Brown comes over in the trade. So much change up front. In terms of your communication with Brett Veach and Andy Reid in the offseason, how has your reaction been to all of these moves?
I think it's been a great offseason. We brought in a lot of great guys that love to compete and that love to play football. And so for us, we have depth at every position, and we're going to go out there and compete every single day. And that's what breeds the excellence. And that's what breeds greatness is a competition every single day. And I think Coach Reid and Brett Veach have done a great job of that.
And so breeding excellence, trying to get better every day. You've become a part owner of the Kansas City Royals. You've become a father. A lot's changed for you personally. What's the next thing that Patrick Mahomes is trying to do besides all of the football stuff that we pay so much attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just going to continue to learn, to continue to get more knowledge, and continue to meet a lot of great people. Luckily enough, I'm out here with a lot of great athletes and great people out here at American Century Championship. I'm out here chilling with my friends at Coors Light, and we're going to have a great time just today, and then we'll see what the future holds.
In terms of a great time, Patrick, Travis Kelce had some things to say about your golf game. He has a lot of things to say. What do you have to say about Travis Kelce and his golf game?
Travis Kelce's golf game is probably one of the most fun watches that you'll ever see. I mean, he's going to hit the ball 400 yards. You just never know if it's going to be straight. It might be in 3 fairways away. So if you're looking for a fun watch, make sure you watch him play.
Yeah, make sure to watch him as well. Watch his ball because it might be coming for you. The Super Bowl champion, MVP, Patrick Mahomes, thanks for joining us on Total Access today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So he's accomplished quite a bit. 37-8 as a starter, more yards per game and passing touchdowns than anyone since 2018. His awards case rapidly filling up. But with all of those things come other things. Warm TA welcome to Steve Weish, former chief, Brandon Flowers, and our Tom Pelissero. Guys, he says the toe is good, so that's great. That's an internal thing. What about the external things that might prevent a third trip to the Super Bowl? What about the expectations, all the pressure, Brandon? Is it too much?
It's definitely going to be pressure. Is it unfair pressure? Yes, because of his greatness. we often look at Patrick Mahomes as a LeBron James just because of his greatness. If you look at his resume, he goes from MVP to a Super Bowl win to a Super Bowl loss. Almost like how LeBron James swept the Eastern Conference and he always ended up in the championship. That's what we expect out of Patrick Mahomes right now. He was banged up last year and still led his team there. So anything short of a Super Bowl right now, because I think the window is still open in the AFC with other teams gaining ground on him, the pressure is definitely there for him to go and try to hold that Lombardi trophy up one more time.
Yeah, look, Brandon, those are all really good points, but the pressure shouldn't all be on Patrick Mahomes because of the excellence. I mean, look at what the AFC is now. I mean, think about Tom Brady and all those years when the Patriots ruled. They didn't have to do much in the division. That was a terrible division in the AFC East. Now Patrick Mahomes has the Chargers on the come up. Then you've got teams like the Bills, like the Titans, like the Browns, like the Ravens. There seem to be so many teams now in the AFC who are coming for the Chiefs, and Kansas City plays most of them in the regular season. So I think when we're talking about pressure, the competitive pressure from some of the uptick on some of the other teams in the AFC is what's going to be the most challenging thing for the Chiefs, because as they already know after 2 years of going through it, they're not getting anybody's B game. They're taking everybody's best shot. The thing is, everybody's best shot, those teams are much better now.
Guys, what more do we want from Patrick Mahomes? He could never go to a Super Bowl again, and he would still have Hall of Fame credentials. He's been a starter for 3 seasons. Brandon laid it out. He has won an NFL MVP. He has won a Super Bowl MVP and, of course, won that championship. Been back to another Super Bowl, which, oh, yeah, if he weren't banged up and didn't have a depleted offensive line, he might well have won that one, too. Nobody's won more games. Nobody's thrown more touchdown passes. And Patrick Mahomes is 25 years old, which, by the way, the same age Aaron Rodgers was when he was in his first season as the Packers starter. These conversations about pressure almost remind me, and the bar set, of Bill Belichick, who hasn't won a Coach of the Year award, hasn't really even gotten many votes over the past decade, no matter how many Super Bowls he wins. It's not fun for the media members who cast those votes to just vote for the best guy every year. Patrick Mahomes, for the foreseeable future, may well be the best player in the NFL year in and year out. And that's not a slight at Aaron Rodgers or Lamar Jackson or anybody else. If anything, though, with Patrick Mahomes, we take the greatness for granted.
And maybe that it's the slight to the conversation itself, Tom. If you look at, does the pressure matter, Brendan? Having heard Steve's arguments and Tom's arguments, do you think the pressure will actually influence the way Patrick Mahomes plays one way or the other?
It's definitely not going to influence the way he plays, because he's a guy that stands everything in the face. He's been down in the playoffs. He's came back from 20+, so he's going to play ball. I just hope his team be there to back him when he goes on this run.
And maybe everybody else could fairly contextualize what happens and how that one player, despite how good he is, can't do everything on the football field. That is a look at Patrick Mahomes. We got to look at his teammate coming up. Travis Kelce on pace to break every tight end record in the books. He's Patrick Mahomes' favorite target. He's one of the deans of tight end U. He may be a long shot to win that golf tournament in Tahoe, but we
don't know how to treat our bodies. We were eating fast food every day, and I brought that regimen to the NFL. And it was a linebacker by the name of Donnie Edwards, who was in his 15th year at the time. And I'm just walking through the halls. I have like 3 bags of fast food, and the level of disgust he looked at me with was like, yuck, you putting all that filth in your body? I'm walking around with a dad bod as a rookie, and he's ripped like Hercules at year 15. He not only made me feel so bad that I changed my diet, I actually went vegan throughout my NFL career. So that was definitely my I'm not a pro moment.
Brandon, did you eat it? Did you ultimately eat that particular meal that day?
I ate half of it, and every bite was like, why am I doing this to myself? Donnie, just stop looking at me take these bites. So
still a couple of weeks away from training camp opening up, an entire season plus away from Super Bowl 56 kicking off in LA's SoFi Stadium. But it's never too early to talk about Super Bowl contenders, whose Super Bowl window is closing and whose is opening. Let's go to NFL Total Access Overtime and find out.
Here for Total Access Overtime, hanging out with a few of my friends at a wonderful time of year, a time where there are zeros in the loss column. So everybody's got a reason to hope. But when you talk to coaches and personnel guys around the league, a lot of times they'll say, I got a secret. There's really only like 8 or 10 or 12 teams. The number varies. The number of teams that they believe could actually win the Super Bowl. So let's talk about some of these Super Bowl windows that are opening for some teams right now and closing for some teams, because we'll give it to you straight, starting with Kim Jones. Kim, let's start with some Super Bowl teams in your mind that are now entering the conversation.
Well, I think it's clearly the Buffalo Bills for number one for me, guys. I sat in this seat back in, I think it was late October or early November, and I said, we have to stop treating the Bills like the little engine that could, because they're a cute franchise, right? It's quaint in Orchard Park, New York, and their fans are like college programs, really. They are so enthusiastic, and they wait at the airport, and they do all of that stuff. Well, a lot of that stuff, all of that stuff is true, but they're a really, really well-coached, well-run, and outstanding roster of a football team. A lot of it's because of that guy, Josh Allen, by the way. And I asked Josh recently on Zoom about the idea that he is now the poster child for the idea that any quarterback who has to make improvements when he gets into this league, it's, well, Josh Allen did it. And he's not really worried about that. He did smile at the question. But Josh has bigger things that he's concerned about this season, and that's the Bills being even better than they were before. They know what's in front of them, and I believe they're a very confident group. They're also not afraid of really hard work, and a lot of them are full force at it in Orchard Park.
Yeah, Mike, I'm curious, do those coaches include their own teams when they tell you that there's only 8 or 10 teams that can go to the Super Bowl? I'm always curious how the coaches actually feel about their group. Yeah, most of the time. Okay, good. So, well, to Kim's point, I agree. I think the Buffalo Bills are probably the cream of the crop as far as Super Bowl windows starting to open with what they've done on the offensive side. I love what they do schematically on both sides of the ball, and they're fantastic, and they've really helped Josh come along from an offensive scheme standpoint, but with Diggs and with Beasley and then the additions that they made on offense to kind of help that quarterback just start to flourish. I love that team. I think that you have to have a guy like that. I also like the Browns. I think the Browns are interesting. They've been kind of in the cellar for the last 2 decades. They beat the Steelers twice in a row last year, once in the playoffs. Probably should have had a chance to beat the Chiefs, although it was without Patrick Mahomes for a little bit of that game. I think that is one of the things, one of the teams that you look at as a team that can run the football and play good defense. I mean, what Kevin Stefanski was able to do with Baker Mayfield was settle him in, give him easy completions, run the football. I mean, they were a top 5 rushing team, and that's kind of offense that translates and that you can kind of carry over, and you can say, you know what, these guys are going to be able to do that again, because that's repeatable offense. That's not something where we're just taking shots down the field, hoping we make completions. They have a repeatable offense that is based off a strong running game. I really like the Browns as well.
I think that it's the teams, like if it's 8 teams that can win the Super Bowl, then it's not, they're including their team, right? If it's 10, then they're going to include the, anyways, it's all about how many numbers they end up saying. I think both of those are great picks. It's really hard to argue anything about the Bills that is not, completely Super Bowl aspirations this year, for sure. Same thing with the Browns, who also take advantage of the fact that maybe the Steelers are not quite as in the same position as we've seen the Steelers be in the past. So the division really matters a lot. But if I'm looking out a little bit further, maybe not 2021, but maybe 2022 or further, it's really hard to not think that the Dolphins have something special going on. Their defense is completely changed from before. They've really started to come into their own. It will really depend on what is Tua Tagovailoa going to become? Who is he going to be? Or is he the quarterback of their future? I think that they're kind of a team that is willing to kind of figure it out. So when I look to see who would I kind of think about for years to come, in addition to those 2 that you already mentioned, I like the Dolphins too.
David, I remember being at training camp a couple of years ago, and everybody was hot for the Browns. They had just traded for Odell Beckham, and everybody was talking about them being a contender. And I remember a head coach of a perennial Super Bowl contender, I'm not going to say who it was having a conversation with him, and he said, everybody's all excited about the Browns, and they're not one of the teams that is going to be in the playoff contention, into the Super Bowl contention into January. And he walked off, and that was it. It was the last thing he said, and he walked away. And he was right. I can't say who it was. He was right. By the way, as far as Super Bowl windows opening, when we had this idea for this conversation, the one team that kind of popped into my head late, I said, what about the New England Patriots? Do they count? Can their Super Bowl window open after being closed for only a year? I don't know. Perhaps we should throw them into this conversation. But yeah, speaking of Super Bowl windows closing, that's the part of this that I find interesting, because this is the part that's going to tick some people off, and I love that. Kim Jones, why don't you start rankling the folks?
Well, I don't know if this should rankle, but I look at Tampa Bay, and they've loaded up again, right? And they very well might win it again, right? With Tom Brady, ageless Tom Brady, and with all of the principals back, and their defense under Todd Bowles was absolutely fantastic, especially, as we know, in the Super Bowl. You know, but to me, Tampa is one of those teams. It's not going to last forever, the way this roster's built, the way the money was spent, and just when it does come down to Father Time. But could they do it again this year? Yes, heck yes. I'm not going to rule them out for this year.
Yeah, I think that when you're talking about quarterbacks, basically, when you're talking about that team and it closing, basically you're saying Tom Brady's getting near the end, and that's probably why. Well, Drew Brees is at the end, and Drew Brees is done, and he's no longer the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. And that relationship between him and Sean Payton was special, and they were fantastic, and they were dynamic on offense for the last 2 decades. Now, they've had success, with Teddy Bridgewater, with throwing different guys in there, and they've won football games. Now Jameis Winston's going to enter the chat, and he's going to try his hand at Sean Payton's offense, which I think he's going to do well. Is he going to be an all-time great like Drew Brees? It remains to be seen. I mean, that's going to be something that, man, they had a great run, and their window may be closing, and it may just be down to if Jameis Winston can pick that back up, put a little piece of wood in that window and keep it open for a little bit longer, because they got a talented team, and Sean Payton's a great play caller. It really comes down to number 2 and Jameis Winston, if he can kind of keep this thing going. But that could be a team that I could see it close pretty quick.
So I agree with both of you, but I want to point out 2 things. One, I think that Mike G was talking about Mike Tomlin when he was talking about the Browns. That's my guess for which coach it is. But I think the Steelers, they might have their Super Bowl window closing. Ben Roethlisberger, we saw it was all about those quick passes last season. And that O-line is not, it's not when I'm a little iffy. Maybe that's the right word that I think coming out this season. And their defense, they lost a lot of pieces this past offseason. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be the Steelers Super Bowl season. And then one I have to throw in for good measure, because we have to keep this quarterback theme going. That would be Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. I think, again, their defense is not super helpful, and Russell Wilson himself talked about getting hit quite a bit. Not a great O-line, not one that I know, I wouldn't want my friend David standing behind him, because that doesn't seem fun for anyone. So ultimately, those two may or may not, though, that it doesn't seem like a Super Bowl situation for either one.
Cynthia, that's the one for me. It's almost into 2022, though. I mean, because Russell Wilson's going to be with the Seahawks in 21. But we spent a lot of time this offseason talking about when is Russell Wilson not going to be the quarterback of the Seahawks, and in large part because Russell Wilson fanned those flames. So this is, again, going to be a storyline for us after the season. Their window has been open the entire last decade, and in large part because of Russell Wilson. This was a team that rebuilt, retooled, whatever R word you want to use there. They did it for a couple of years and still won 9, 10 games because of Russell Wilson. So if he takes his gripes from this past offseason into next offseason, we could be talking about a team that now has to reset at the quarterback position, which they're not going to be able to win that many games while they do that at that. I don't think so. I wouldn't think so, depending on who winds up being the guy there. So when I look at a window closing, I'm saying, all right, is it going to be a little bit uncomfortable for Russell Wilson and some of his teammates, particularly those guys that are going to be blocking for him, because we know what he said about them for this season. And then beyond, it's got to be a big question mark for Wilson and the Seahawks. By the way, before we check out here, I'm going to have to address that Mike Tomlin guess by you, because if I don't, people are going to think Cynthia was right. You're wrong. It wasn't.
The championship there at Lake Tahoe. I got to ask you about the game, Travis. How did it go out there today? How did the swing look?
Well, thank goodness it was a practice round, man. I don't know if I would have wanted this one to be in the books, man. We had a blast, though, man. It was a good time. A lot of great people out here, and that's the best part, is you're getting around guys and women that they're genuine in who they are, and American Century does a great job of hosting us and just making it easy on everybody to just come out.
Chelsea, I heard some great news about your compadre today and Patrick Mahomes. I heard you witness him hit a 347 in the long ball contest today. Tell me what that was like.
I'll tell you what, man. It it was impressive. It was impressive. I've seen him hit it further. I'm not going to lie. I've seen him hit it way further. But anytime you see him pull out the driver, it's you know this ball is about to be shot into orbit, man. It's he's the ultimate athlete, right? Anything he kind of picks up, he's pretty good at, and especially here on the golf course, man, his game gets better and better every year. So definitely expect to see him at least get in the top 10 to top 15 guys they're going to try and win this thing.
Yeah, it helps, right, in the practice round, putting on the show in the long drive. No matter what happens tomorrow, nobody can take that drive away. And we saw, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady get at it, right, Travis? A lot of people paying attention to that regarding Aaron Rodgers' situation with the Green Bay Packers. But were you paying attention? Were you trying to discern, right, who's going to be playing against you guys in Week 9 while you're watching the match earlier this week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really buy into it all. I think it's really unfair to throw all that weight on Aaron. His situation is so unique there in Green Bay. Nobody really understands exactly what's going on. I know I definitely don't. I just hope that he gets out there and he's playing this year, because he's an unbelievable quarterback, and I think the NFL needs him to be out there being his best, man. And you never know, man. Who knows what happens throughout the year. I'm not really thinking about Week 9 as is, but I know that yesterday watching those two battle it out on the golf course is pretty entertaining.
You got the AFC Championship, you got a Super Bowl win, and you got a Super Bowl loss. How do you guys as a team in Kansas City keep that chip on your shoulder to make sure you get to that pinnacle at the end of the season for this upcoming year?
I'm not gonna lie, man. That was pretty embarrassing taking that last loss down there in Tampa, man. If you're not motivated after taking a shellacking like that, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's in me right now. I want to go win one more than I ever wanted to get one in the first place. And that's everybody in that building, man. That's why I love Kansas City. We got great guys, top to bottom, front office. Clark Hunt, the head of it all, man, the owner of the Chiefs. He's done a great job of getting the right people in the right place. And even more so this year with the new additions that we have. It's just exciting times, and everybody's motivated to just get better and go out here and try and win a Super Bowl, man.
And that's what makes y'all special. You got guys like yourself in that locker room that never wants to take a day off, never wants to take a playoff. Speaking of never want to take days off, your offseason training down here in South Florida and at XP Sports with the mad scientist Tony Villani. He created a curriculum that can get guys out of their breaks faster than what they did before. And during a workout, you scream, "I'm beating physics." And that's scary because you can't be stopped right now. So are you getting better? What did you mean when you say you beating physics? I need to know this right now.
So obviously Tony is doing an unbelievable job of working with the anatomy of the body. He's got a track background. He's been unbelievable on making guys faster, start to finish, using all the gears or all the phases of running. So not only does he teach it in that form, but he teaches it in the form of physics, man. He teaches it in terms of being low and using the center of gravity to your advantage. And with that being said, man, we were doing a drill that, we did a 10-yard starts or 10-yard bursts, and it was he was timing us, and I was, for whatever reason, man, I was just as fast coming from a stand-up than I was from an actual wide receiver or loaded position coming off the line. And I'll tell you what, man, I don't know if anybody else has done it like that, but it definitely felt good to kind of go against the grain. Just knowing that Tony is teaching it better than anybody in the world, man, and definitely has made my game translate onto the field way better ever since I've been working with him.
Well, it helps, right, to be a Travis Kelce and be singularly talented, right, and putting that into play. And in terms of talent, tomorrow you and Pat get a chance to play with Justin Timberlake. Your thoughts on JT? Have you met JT? Do you think it's going to be nice to get out there and swing the sticks around with him a bit?
So this is my third year here. I met him my first year playing out here in Tahoe, and man, what a humble guy, what a fun energy. Like he's everything you would hope for him to be honest, man. I've been such a fan of his work, both in the acting world and the music world, and I can't wait to get out there and have some fun with him tomorrow, man. I haven't seen him since I first met him a couple years ago, and him and Pat, I know they'll probably have the better scores, but I'll probably be having the most fun out of anybody. I can guarantee you that.
And you'll have an opportunity to get some of those film references put in there. Perhaps we'll see JT, Travis Kelce, a whole ensemble cast. The feature film coming up here in a few years. Travis, good luck tomorrow. Thanks for coming on Total Access, man.
Hey, you guys have a good one. Chiefs Kingdom, we coming, baby.
One of the best in the business, Travis Kelce, joining.
Kelce, I heard some great news about your compadre today in Patrick Mahomes. I heard you witness him hit a 347 in the long ball contest today. Tell me what that was like.
I'll tell you what, man, it was impressive. It was impressive. I've seen him hit it further. I'm not going to lie. I've seen him hit it way further. But anytime you see him pull out the driver, it's you know this ball is about to be shot into orbit, man. It's he's the ultimate athlete, right? Anything he kind of picks up, he's pretty good at. And especially here on the golf course, man, his game gets better and better every year. So definitely expect to see him at least get in the top 10 to top 15 guys they're going to try and win this thing.
Yeah, it helps, right, in the practice round, putting on the show in the long drive. No matter what happens tomorrow, nobody can take that drive away. And we saw, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady get at it, right, Travis? A lot of people paying attention to that regarding Aaron Rodgers' situation with the Green Bay Packers. But were you paying attention? Were you trying to discern, right, who's going to be playing against you guys in Week 9 while you're watching the match earlier this week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really buy into it all. I think it's really unfair to throw all that weight on Aaron. His situation is so unique there in Green Bay. Nobody really understands exactly what's going on. I know I definitely don't. I just hope that he gets out there and he's playing this year, because he's an unbelievable quarterback, and I think the NFL needs him to be out there being his best, man. And you never know, man. Who knows what happens throughout the year? I'm not really thinking about Week 9 as is, but I know that yesterday watching those two battle it out on the golf course is pretty entertaining.
You got the AFC Championship, you got a Super Bowl win, and you got a Super Bowl loss. How do you guys as a team in Kansas City keep that chip on your shoulder to make sure you get to that pinnacle at the end of the season for this upcoming year?
I'm not gonna lie, man. That was pretty embarrassing taking that last loss down there in Tampa, man. If you're not motivated after taking a shellacking like that, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's in me right now. I want to go win one more than I ever wanted to get one in the first place. And that's everybody in that building, man. That's why I love Kansas City. We got great guys, top to bottom, front office. Clark Hunt, the head of it all, man, the owner of the Chiefs. He's done a great job of getting the right people in the right place. And even more so this year with the new additions that we have. It's just exciting times, and everybody's motivated to just get better and go out here and try and win a Super Bowl, man.
And that's what makes y'all special. You got guys like yourself in that locker room that never wants to take a day off, never wants to take a playoff. Speaking of never want to take days off, your offseason training down here in South Florida and at XP Sports with the mad scientist Tony Vellani. He created a curriculum that can get guys out of their breaks faster than what they did before. And doing a workout, you scream, "I'm beating physics." And that's scary because you can't be stopped right now. So are you getting better? What did you mean when you said you beating physics? I need to know this right now.
So obviously Tony is doing an unbelievable job of working with the anatomy of the body. He's got a track background. He's been unbelievable on making guys faster, start to finish, using all the gears or all the phases of running. So not only does he teach it in that form, but he teaches it in the form of physics, man. He teaches it in terms of being low and using the center of gravity to your advantage. And with that being said, man, we were doing a drill that, we did 10-yard starts or 10-yard bursts, and it was he was timing us, and I was, for whatever reason, man, I was just as fast coming from a stand-up than I was from an actual wide receiver or loaded position coming off the line, and